Temporary Australians is proudly brought to you by Harley Davidson Australia, Fraser Motorcycles, Brotherhood CMC, Victory Motorcycles, the Australian Motorcycle Expo, Austrikes, and Think Right.
Hello and welcome to the new series of Temporary Australians. We're back. I'm Jonesy.
And I'm Hirsty.
And the Adelaide Toy Run. You went to Adelaide.
Mate, it was a great ride and there's so many bikes down there, it was unbelievable.
You didn't bring me back a present.
Well, look, they had a lot of tinsel wrapped around the handlebars and I thought of bringing that back for you, but you know, they just didn't have time.
Tinsel? Well, it is a festive time, I suppose, Christmas and all.
In South Australia, that's what they do.
It's always festive in South Australia. Sled you'd love in your shed. I tell you what, Greg, you'll love this bike. This bike that I picked you, I see you riding it.
Thanks, mate. I'm looking forward to it. Also coming up, we take a look at a new breed of beefy motorcycles. We learn what it takes to be a bikie mum. We find out what makes the Bankstown Custom Motorcycle Show tick. Jonesy gives a Vespa a good workout. We check out a popular biker cafe in Adelaide. And Jonesy finds out what it takes to race a dirt track sidecar. Now we're down here in Adelaide for the MRA Toy Run, and there's a couple of things that are really different from this ride. Not just the crocodile, but also the tinsel. If you look around all the bikes here, you can tell the locals from the people from interstate because they've all got tinsel on their bikes. What is it about South Australians and tinsel?
I honestly don't know, but you notice I don't have any on mine.
You're not from Sydney by any chance?
No, I'm South Australian, but I got to ride home for the country. I don't want to get beat up.
What do you think this sort of ride does for community perception of bikers?
Oh, I think it gives them a better image because these are normal people that normally some wear suits on the weekday and work normal jobs, and yet they come out and wear leathers, and they're just normal people trying to do the right thing by the community.
It's a huge turnout here, mate. You pleased?
Very pleased. I think we've had bigger turnouts, but this is a wonderful day, and it's been well supported by the motorcycling community in South Australia.
So what's going to happen here this morning?
It's in about 10 minutes' time. The Les Dicker, who's waved off the Grand Prix in Australia for a long time, is going to drop the flag, and Sandra is going to lead us from here up into the hills to an oval where all these toys that they've gathered are going to be dropped off, and there's a phaeton for the motorcycling community.
One thing I've heard said about this run is it's the only event that brings the whole motorcycling community together in Adelaide.
That is correct. And motorcycling is a cross-section of all of our society, and you'll find everybody here from CEOs down to blue-collar workers and all the way in between. Motorcycling's their common, and this toy run brings them all together.
Now, I've heard that this is also one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the country.
We believe it's the biggest single run. Now, I know that some of the capital cities in the eastern states have more people show up, but they have multiple runs to get there. This is we understand, the biggest one where the ride is a single ride to the day.
And how far will we be going till we get to the final destination?
It's around about 50k away.
So a nice pleasant ride through the Adelaide Hills.
Oh, lovely ride.
Phil wasn't wrong. Thousands of riders had gathered, and before long they were off through the streets of Adelaide and towards the Adelaide Hills. People lined the streets and highways, and one thing was certain: Adelaide just loves the MRA Toy Run.
Wow, what a great day for it. You know, Hoss said he was going to meet me here today, had something exciting to show me. Something about a V8 motorcycle. I don't know, that sounds crazy. A V8 road motorcycle. Like, who'd make that? There he is now. He's got a bike with a V8 in it.
If there was a term for the manliest manly bike in the whole world covered in hair, it would be the Barbarian. These motorcycles have been designed to tour the continent or cruise the beachfront in style, and they're made right here in Australia.
So, Hoss, why a V8?
Oh, because they're cool.
Okay, fair enough. How long have you been making Barbarians? Like, for example, how did you actually get involved in making this bike?
Oh, we've been building bikes for a long time. We've been building the V8 dirt drag bikes for over 2 years, and the opportunity came up for us to start building the Barbarian V8 road bike. So we've taken it on, and they're going really well.
You're going to put a V8 engine in this.
Yes.
How much horsepower are we talking about?
It's 300 horsepower, 350 Chev motor.
300 horsepower?
300 horsepower.
Are you mental?
Well, some say I are, but I'm not.
And you can ride this on the road?
Yes, you can.
Well, the government will allow you to ride a 300 horsepower motorcycle on the road?
Yep, we've got them full ADR approved throughout Australia.
Right. Can I have a go?
Of course you can. Got some keys?
Sure. I'll be right back.
As you're riding along the road, you just think, how cool is this? It feels great, and it feels like you're just on display. You're in a one-man parade. The power is amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. At first, it feels so intimidating. The tank is so huge. The weight of the bike, it just feels ginormous. But then when you're riding along, the power and everything just works in simpatico, and it just runs like a peach. The engine feels great, it just burbles along nicely. I didn't even need to use the brakes. The engine braking actually brakes for you. And with the low centre of gravity, it handles like a dream. I love it. It's sensational. Everyone should get one of these.
Coming at around about $50,000 as well, you could buy yourself a hot rod, but you could have this. It's a V8 on 2 wheels. You would be the envy of all your mates.
Paulette, how long have you been riding?
I hate to tell you, it's about 50 years.
That is a lot. Let's start at the beginning then.
Oh, well, I started to learn when I was 16. I was going to university and I couldn't afford a car, so I decided I'd get a bike. It's all I could afford, and it was a cheap way to get to university. So I probably rode for about 10 years until I got married and had kids, and my husband made me sell my bike. And then after my kids grew up into their 20s, I decided to go riding again.
I have to tell you, you're the reverse of the stereotype. The stereotype is the guy gets married, has to give up the bike for the wife, and then when the kids go out of home, gets back into motorcycle.
Well, it takes all types.
So how does the rest of your family feel about your riding?
My children are horrified. I think they panic every time I go riding. They're kind of used to it now because I've been doing it again for about 10 years, but in the beginning they were horrified.
So do they give you lectures and try and convince you that you're doing a silly thing?
Oh, they did. They're used now. They just call me their bikie mum.
So how long's the show been going?
This is the 23rd year coming up next year, March 31st.
That's a remarkably long time. Why do you think the show's survived so long? Variety and motorcycles. I think that's the two we can put it down to. Every year we try to make the show bigger and better, and just the quality of the motorcycles and the people involved have made it successful. I have noticed that the number of custom motorcycles you get there is remarkable every year. Do you have to hunt them up, or do people just come because of the reputation of the show?
I think it's the reputation these days. We're looking at usually 100 plus custom bikes are categorised. We've got 30 categories. So it's a pretty wide stream of the bikes that can be actually viewed and judged, so it's a good thing.
Now that's not the only thing that people can see when they come to the show, is it? You have lots of other activity.
No, that's right. The entertainment is one of the key factors. We've got martial arts, we have speedway, we have bands, we have wrestling. You know, every year is different, so therefore, we just move it around.
Now that's an interesting development because it's become a total entertainment package when bringing in other forms of motorcycling. Has that proved popular?
That's it. That's exactly right. We're trying to make people realise that there are a lot more to motorcycles than just riding them on the road. We've got trials riders, we've got speedway, motocross, supermoto were there last year. All these types of motorcycles activities are important.
Now, it would be the biggest show that I've been to, club show in Australia. Is that how you guys see it?
I think so, yeah. We put a lot of time and effort into it, and like I said, everyone's welcome, and we just want to everyone to embrace the motorcycle culture, I think.
Now, the motorcycle culture seems to be attracting a lot of people from the mainstream, and local community come to your show every year. It's just amazing how many families and kids are going around. What do you put that down to?
Good question. I think there's a little bit of mystique about it, but also just the variety on the day. But motorcycles are becoming more popular, I think, as a means of transport, and hopefully more people get into them. That's what we want to see.
Well, certainly that'd be a good thing. My observation is that the bike culture seems to be quite popular. Outside law enforcement areas, people in the general community seem to really like what clubs do.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing. You know, we put a lot of effort into helping the community, being involved in the community, and so do a lot of other motorcycle associations. So it is a good thing, definitely.
After World War II, the Italians agreed with the Allies not to make any more warplanes. The problem was they had all these plane-making facilities, but what could they make in there? So in 1946, a mob called Piaggio and Co. came up with an idea to make something that was sort of flew. It was called a wasp, but in Italian, that's a Vespa. Although you're not going to do much flying on this thing, I think they called it a wasp because it sounded like one. Vespa is truly a great bike. It's got a monocoque frame. No, don't worry, I'm not swearing. That's the fairing becomes the frame of the motorcycle. Also, the cool thing about this is the futuristic controls. Look at this. It's got a 1 and it's got a 2 and a 3. But the thing is, if you wanted to take the cables out, it's a nightmare. Many an Italian mechanic would be still cursing about these things to this day.
It seems the Italians' fears of the deal they made about not making planes and bombs were unfounded, as the Vespa was a huge hit and so versatile. You could take the missus out for some veal scallopini and she didn't even have to pull on bike gear. Although tricky to split lanes when you're riding side saddle.
Powered by a 150cc two-stroke engine, which was more than enough to ferry Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn around Rome on a romantic journey. And that's what the Vespa is. It's truly romantic. And that's why it's a sled we'd love in our shed. Bellissimo.
Now, Wayne, we started off the ride at the Village Cafe, and I have to say, it really struck me as a nice little out-of-the-way place in Adelaide where you could get away from the wife and kids and just go for a ride with your mate. So, you get a lot of people turning up there on bikes?
Mate, a lot of bikes go to meet at Village, yeah, on Saturdays and Sundays, particularly, yeah. Good food, the breakfasts are awesome.
So they welcome bikers by the sound of it?
Absolutely, mate, absolutely. Good spot to head off from, straight down South Road if you're going to go south, or just weave your way up through the city a little bit. And Adelaide's not that big, it's not like Sydney, mate, so it's pretty easy to get around. So from Village, a good spot to launch off and have a ride.
And other clubs use the place too?
Ulysses, yeah, they meet and ride from there, and there are other groups that meet from there as well, yeah.
So if someone comes into town for the first time on a bike and they've done the Adelaide Hills ride, obviously to get into Adelaide, how are they going to find Village?
Yeah, well, it's on South Road, and there's a big sign. You can't miss it, but it's in Mile End. And we had a breakfast there one morning, and we caught up with a guy from Kangaroo Island, and he'd been travelling right around Australia, so it was awesome to meet him, and he just became one of us within a very short time, and we had a lot of fun and learned a lot from him. So yeah, it's a great meeting place, and yeah, you know, food's always good, isn't it? So yeah.
Absolutely, especially if someone else pays for it.
Oh well, that helps, yeah.
What do I know about dirt track sidecars? Well, pretty much nothing, although I think they left this one in the wash. It shrunk. It's tiny. What happened? Did it shrink? Hello, Brett. How are you?
Jonesy, how are you? Welcome to Dirt Track.
It didn't shrink.
It didn't shrink.
So what's the story with this?
There's actually two dirt track sidecar classes, Jonesy. There's the unlimited class, which is up to 1100 cc's, and there's the junior class, not for kids, certainly not for kids, it's an adults only sport. They're up to 550 cc's in capacity, so you can run any engine configuration as long as it's 550 or under.
Any greats that have ridden these have become legends?
Dirt track sidecars tend to be somewhat mad, bad, and dangerous people to know, so we tend not to kind of progress to other people. Stick with dirt track sidecars for years. Darren Treloar is an example. He's a multiple Australian championship. He races speedway sidecars. Dirt track and speedway are quite similar. Speedway guys don't have brakes.
And how do you go on it? Do you go all right?
Backwards quite often. My number actually should be 111. That way it looks the same whether I'm upside down or the right way up.
And what would you rather do, ride it or be in the chair?
Both if I could, but they won't let me. I ride the bike. Tom White is my passenger. He's a little loosely hinged, so I'm probably better off on the handlebars.
So you like it both ways?
Sometimes. What are you saying, Jonesy?
But enough about the rider. What about the passenger, or the swinger as they call it in the business? I wonder if I have to drop my keys in. Let's go and meet a swinger. How long have you been swinging for?
10 years now I've been doing this. I do the dirt track sidecars and I also do the road racing sidecars, and there's a lot of difference between the two of them. These are just pure fun and great to do, and a bit of work to do out there, but after about 4 or 5 races in a day I've had enough and just want to go home. Those riders nail us, but that's only because of the work we've got to do.
Do you get scared?
When I'm riding with my little brother Charlie, yes.
And what about the positions, Tommy? Can you show us some of the it sounds weird, swinging positions, but show us some of the swinging positions.
Brett's here in front of me, I'm in behind him and got my weight up against him so we keep the front end of the bike down. As we're going down the straight, I slip myself into the platform. Then we come into the first turn, which is a left-hander. Then I've got to get myself out around like this. And then the next turn we do is a right-hander, and I've got to get myself up and over the back of the bike like this. And as we're going down the straights, we just kind of keep as much weight on the back of the bike so we can drive it. With these sidecars, it's more the passenger that does the driving of the bike.
What's a position you don't want to be caught in if you have an accident?
The arse end of the bike flipping over the front, it hurts.
Right.
3 ribs and a punctured lung. So, but other than that, it's just great. I've had quite a few accidents over the years, but still come back for it, and I really love the sport and the blokes I race with.
Bikes came from all over South Australia for the MRA Toy Run. They rode through the Adelaide Hills, keeping a healthy freeway speed, arriving in Callington to an enthusiastic reception.
We'd like to welcome you today to the Motorcycle Riders Association's 34th Toy Run.
This is the premier motorcycle event in Adelaide, and we've always been inclusive of anyone that rides on 2 wheels. So when the scooters started becoming big in Australia, we had requests to whether they could join the MRA, whether they could come on the tour run. We said yes. I mean, you're part of our group.
It isn't just a drop-off for toys though, is it? You've really turned it into an event.
Oh, certainly it's an event. Over there we've got a band. You can hear that. Behind me we've got lots of stalls for food, and a lot of the motorcycle clubs from South Australia have put up stands, and the local community have come along as well to make themselves known.
The trials rider pulled a big audience and gave a demonstration that few will forget. The show and shine was popular as well. There was something for everyone to enjoy.
This is the first year that we've actually charged people to come in. We get 10,000 plus riders coming along here, and not all of them, or very few of them, are MRA members. So we want them to be able to support the toy run, and this way we get a guaranteed income, and the Vinnies still get their toys and they get a donation from us.
The MRA in South Australia has had an excellent reputation of representing people right across the board from all the different spectrums of motorcycling, so it's good to see that continues to be the case.
An event like the Toy Run helps us with our core business. It gives us the money that we can actually do the kind of stuff and represent riders, all riders, not just MRA members.
It is enormous, yeah. You'll find it's a bit of an eye-opener when you first get down to the starting point. The amount of bikes is amazing, and the amount of varieties of bikes. You'll have cruiser clubs, you'll have sports clubs, you'll have guys on vintage bikes. Everyone will drag their bike out for it. It's a huge event.
What a great story. How good was that Adelaide Toy Run?
Mate, it was huge. There were people everywhere. The thing that I liked the most was when that trials rider rode over the woman. I thought that was excellent.
I thought that was you.
No, that wasn't me, mate. I can't ride a trials bike.
But you can ride over women.
I haven't tried it yet, but I'll give it a go if you're saying so.
No, I'm not saying you do anything like that, Greg. We'll catch you next week on Temporary Australians. Shiny side up.
See ya.